Oh, motherfucker.
Alright, hey everyone, this is Larsh, your casual Mechwarrior. So, thank you again for tuning into the First Circuit podcast number 26, I believe, guys? Right? 26? Yes.
Yep.
26.
So, 26, okay. So, for tonight, we have Byter
Blarg.
and Old Bob 10025.
Blurg.
Alright, so looking over here now, granted I'm going to be super casual tonight because I had a long day at work and haven't really had a whole big chance to go over much, so I'll be just kind of playing things on the fly. But tonight, what we have for our lineup is going to be the Blood ASP, which is the newest mech that PGI released recently. And then we're going to be going over the other thing of buzz, especially on Mechwarrior Online on their forums and on Reddit, which was the Dane boring balance and unfunding of Mechwarrior Online, which mainly includes the mech rescale, mech weapon balance, skill tree, engine desync, consumables, the old or new meta, and the over increasing as usual power creep. So, everyone, guys, where do you want to start at again? The Blood ASP? We're going to be looking at that. Blood ASP. So, another clan mechs. Clan mechs for everyone. Ooh. So, now I have not had a huge chance to go over this mech a whole lot because, well, work and life has been hitting hard recently, but what do you guys think of this new beast of a mech?
I was looking at it. It's a 90-ton mech, like obviously, and it's an Omni mech. So usually, I know for me, like what I usually do is buy one of the Omni mechs, the best version of them, and because I can just switch around the parts. Same thing with like the Nova S, because it has the extra like AMS slot in the center torso. I just buy that one, then I could switch out the Omnipods. And looking at this one though, with the A, the Prime, and the B for the standard pack, I love the weapon ballistic points on the tippy top, so the two Gauss rifles will be there. So as referred to as before, the A has the ECM and plus also jump jets. So in essence, I'm pretty much going to mothball the B and the Prime because I could just go take those Omnipods and switch them over to the A and have the ballistic points on the top and just pretty much make the same Prime mech, but with like ECM. And I'll even have jump jets if I actually decide to go put those in. Just depending. If I don't, I'll probably just go with the B itself. The hill humping that you'll see with the Prime or the Omnipods for the Prime is just gonna be freaking crazy. It's gonna be nice. As far as a 90-ton mech, it is nice. The decals are pretty cool. Everything else, but of course, I'm not a assault pilot, and I never pretty much will be because I really don't like piloting those things. And I do like the fact that the items inside the cockpit they've been actually doing a really good job, starting with the Uzil of having the little cockpit like a little mech like walk with you or walk in your cockpit.
And
I love that idea.
they always look really nice too in game. That's
Yeah.
that's the quote one little detail I do enjoy.
Oh yeah, definitely. But as I said before, like the only way I get into really detail of the clan mechs is when they're actually when they're like 2C mechs. Because like I said, you switch out the Omnipod and switch out the Omnipods to be whatever you want it to be, and the bonuses you get from the Omnipods aren't really the best in the world for having one specific type. So I'll let Biter go there.
Well, my initial impression, at least, thus far as this whole new pack is quite a large exercise in redundancy, and I'm not sure what it really brings to the table, if anything. The clans already have plenty of 90-tonners out there. The Supernova, the Highlander 2C, and of course the Mad Cat Mark II, all are 90-ton battle mechs, allowing you to choose whatever engine and upgrades you want, along with obviously a whole mix of hardpoints. The high mounts of the Ballistix is nice on the Blood Asp, but it's only for the side torsos. And the side torsos are fairly light on the number of weapons you can fit there. So yes, you could poke with 2 Gauss rifles, but with a Mad Cat Mark II, you could poke with 2 Gauss rifles and 6 medium lasers, whereas the Blood Asp has got kind of knuckle-dragging arms. Um, so it just comparing to something like a Mad Cat Mark II, it has really good shield arms. The Blood Asp kind of doesn't. It's kind of like a Nova Cat that is trying to look more hardcore. The giant gun side torso things, whilst they're nice and high mounted, they're kind of like giant missile pods that you fit on a Mad Cat or whatever. They're kind of big targets and make the side torsos very squishy. Also, with the dual Gauss poking that people are talking about, again, this is not the preferred placement for Gauss rifles and clan mechs. Clan mechs typically fairly squishy, so you want to put those dual Gauss in the arms. That's why like something like a Scorch, the Boiler, and the Mad Cat Mark II are so good, because you could throw the Gauss in there, and if you got a Gauss weapon explosion, it just takes off your arm. It doesn't take off half the mech.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, it is an Omni mech rather than a battle mech, so you're stuck with just Endo, no Ferro, and you're stuck with the fixed structure slots of wherever they may be. And yes, you can switch out the hard points, but that means, of course, PGI had to be very careful with what hard points they give it and what quirks they give this thing. So if you want more jump jets than just the one in the center torso, well, if you want jump jets, you have to go up a whole side torso for it, or pick the particular center torso for it. But this is a mech, just like the Sun Spider, in my mind, that struggles to somehow at least fit as many the hard points it wants.
Yeah, and even on the fact of just jump jets, I mean, I never really see the use of a jump jet on a 90 tonner, honestly.
Yeah.
Unless you're doing some really, slick, like jump turning, maybe if you want to get a real quick reposition. But that's a huge sacrifice. What is it? That is on the, which variant is this here? This is on the
Like
A.
110 per.
Yeah, the A, and like like I said, like you're scrapping your whole entire loadout for those torsos.
I mean, the jump jets are fully available on the Highlander, Supernova, and Mad Cat Mark II, and they are sometimes used. But at least with those mechs, because they're battle mechs, they aren't giving up hard points. And lots of them, particularly like the Mad Cat Mark II, have a plethora of hard point options out there. So the shape of this mech doesn't seem to really impress me. The peaking profile doesn't really impress me. The hard points don't really impress me. The one big thing it brings would be that ECM. Obviously, all the other Clan 90 tonners do not bring ECM, and this is one of the heavier, if not the heaviest, ECM mechs I think that the Clan have available to them. Because otherwise you got the Mad Cat Marauder 2C. So this will be the biggest Clan ECM mech, and that is, sadly, at least to my mind, the one thing it's bringing to the table.
Yeah, and surprisingly, you're getting 2 variants with ECM, and actually, it's not in the hero or reinforcement pack.
Yeah,
It's kind of bizarre.
I think at least, looking at Sana, the Prime, the A, B, C, D were all already, in law. So PGI, they always release the Prime and the A and the B as the starting pack. They always, because typically, at least, the more advanced and special variants come later as the clans iterate and put more special tech on. As it stands, though, going by law, they've stuck with the standard pack with all 3 variants that you would most be interested in. The ones with ECM and jump jets, and possibly missile as well. The missile center torso has a little bit more use than nothing in the center torso whatsoever.
Yeah, that's bizarre. So it's typically, I don't really buy assault mech packs because I don't really go into assaults, but lately I have been doing more assaults, and this is I don't know, like I kind of like getting the option for once of getting 3 decent mechs for only $20. That's
But you do bring up a good point, though, Byter, that the mech just is like, bleh, they're just popping something out to go pop something out, and then pop in a bunch of different, Omnipods. But like you said, also too, the $20 pack is pretty much all I'm gonna go purchase. I really don't really care about, paint job's okay on the hero, and that's all I would really get it for, to tell you the truth, just to make it look cool, I guess. But the reinforcement pack, it's really no. I don't really see a big thing about getting that reinforcement pack, except for maybe the 3 ballistic right and 3 ballistic right, like right torsos, and
Well,
that's
yeah.
it.
So let's cover for the audience briefly, quickly at least. Yeah, this whole value proposition, because yeah, if you're getting the collector's pack with the special, the standard pack has got all the 3 with special center torso hardpoints. You're also getting the missile arms. You've got ballistic side torsos. You've got the most energied up arms. This gives you more or less the vast majority of the hardpoints that any free-to-play user will have eventually, by just buying the standard pack. Now, there's not even a reason to buy the collector's pack, because the collector's paint, which looks quite nice, is for the one with just the missile center torso hardpoint.
Yeah,
But as I hypothesized, at least the one unique thing this mech really has going for it, at least on paper thus far, is the ECM. So you're not getting CBIL boosted ECM, the largest clan ECM mech. It's the center torso missile mech. Oh, wow.
Mm-hmm.
yeah,
And yeah, indeed, the reinforcement pack brings just 2 special omnipods to the table. One of them has a ballistic in the left arm, which incidentally has 3 structure slots fixed into it, which is kind of funky. Which means no LBX-20s or UAC-20s, I think. But
Mm-hmm.
obviously, you can still put Gauss or whatever. So it allows you to put a little more ballistic there. And the other one has a 3 ballistic in the right torso, which is nice. It allows you to ballistic up the mech. So yeah, you're only getting the reinforcement pack if you really love clan ballistics, and you're really just getting it for 2 omnipods and maybe some extra C bills with the event. But that's $15. Is that really worth it? And the
Yeah.
hero, what does the hero bring? It just brings 1 energy and 1 missile side torsos.
Yeah, and granted that is the only one with missile side torsos, but I mean,
It's not a missile mech.
it really is not built for missile. But I'm curious about how the missiles will look when they're mounted on on those torsos.
Yeah, I would like to see how the mech looks without anything in the side torsos, energy in the side torsos, and missiles in the side torsos, because that really affects its poking profile and how big its side torsos are to, how easy they are to blow off.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. Even in the hero, they show in the picture, it shows the 2 Gauss cannons or the 2 Gauss rifles without, like without anything for
Well,
the.
they always do the same. This is
Yeah,
always the problem with the new packs. They get the guy to do the concept art, and then they just recolor it.
yeah.
So it never actually shows how the different variants look.
Yeah.
Oh my god. Yeah, true. Yeah, I'm pretty much just gonna purchase the basic pack and then mothball like 1 or 2 of them. Yeah, and
Mm-hmm.
just use one of them. And that's it. But and like you said, even getting the plus 30% Seabill boost one, you're losing the ECM. That ECM's pretty valuable, like in the game itself.
Yeah, as I said, this mech seems to be an exercise in redundancy for me,
Yeah,
just since
yeah,
there are already
Yeah.
plenty of other 90 tonners out there. They're battle mechs. Battle mechs generally more flexible to how you build it. They already have a whole wide selection of weapon loadouts you could do on it. This thing doesn't bring much to the table other than ECM, and again, for PGI's perspective, they want people to buy those reinforcements and hero packs, and there's not so much point to doing that. Just get the standard pack.
Mm-hmm.
true,
That's
true.
the way I see it.
You're forgetting the most important part
Ah,
of
Snuggles.
Ah, Snuggles.
it.
Where
What,
what is it, Snuggles?
It's the fucking blood asp.
I know, and that is the only thing it has going for it, is that I have seen people lose their fucking minds because it is the blood asp.
I mean, I'll
Yep.
lose my mind over
Have,
Hollander.
have you
basically,
seen the
so,
hard points on the Prime variant?
Yeah, we're looking at it right now.
Yeah.
Yeah, all of the shenanigans.
There will be shenanigans, that is for certain.
But like we said though, like omnipods can be switched over to different type of like variants. but the only thing going for you is the center thruster with the one missile. So yeah, it does have shenanigan possibilities, but as far as like an aspect though, as far as the tryhards are pretty much going to use the A and B.
Well, no, the tryhards are going to be using the Mad Cat Mark II and the
Yep.
Marauder 2C.
Yeah,
Mhm.
yeah.
No. This mech is for fanfare.
Yes.
Yeah, it really is. I mean, it really is for just the fan loyalty.
Yeah.
Yeah,
So
true.
how about we just not entertain the tryhards and we just talk about it as of everyone who just likes BattleTech, and it's a fucking blood asp.
Boo, blood ass, boo.
Well, since Bob doesn't like clans, so I mean, there's that.
Okay, yeah, Bob just shits on everything. Doesn't like
Yep.
the roughneck. Doesn't like the blood asp.
No, I like the roughneck mech. The lower is really crappy. The mech is fine.
Lives in California. Probably doesn't like Mexican food.
I love Mexican food. Oh, thanks, man.
Okay, guys, listen. I'm just talking shit.
No, it's cool, dude.
I'm just talking shit.
Yeah,
good.
it's fine, man.
Okay,
Yeah.
so
That's probably
next
gonna get taken out of context. And that's gonna be an epic quote.
Yeah, I know.
Because I'm gonna just go ahead and just cut the audio and just kind of clip it in somewhere.
I'm sorry, Bob. I'm just gonna apologize in advance. My bad.
So next we got balance, guys. Okay, so let me get the talking points here. Oh boy.
To rehash again, just by the by, Dane Croughton made a video called Boring Balance on the Unfunning of Mechwarrior Online, and this has been making the rounds on Reddit and other Mechwarrior Online related social medias.
So if you're
Yes.
if you're a person on Reddit, you've probably seen this.
You
And
have
his general sentiment is at least the balance of Mechwarrior Online is not that great, or at least the game is boring and is unfun, I would say.
Now, the one thing we have to go ahead and hash out though, like in the beginning of his video, he made a really good point: is you can't really have major balance from a tabletop game going to a first-person shooter, which is definitely true. You can't make it exactly from tabletop to like transfer all the rules and everything else into a first-person shooter, because online is completely different as far as play styles and everything else. Hence, LRMs. I know a lot of people hate like LRMs. But in the tabletop game, they're very effective. But obviously, in the online Mechwarrior Online, you can't really. It's not really that effective because different other aspects you can run away from it and do whatever. So balance is perspective of the person of how they use it, and balance comes, like I said, tabletop to normal game. So first we got rescale. So like, what do you guys' thought on the rescale? Smaller mechs got big and needed quirks to balance them out. So what do you guys think about that?
There's a few mechs that need to go back to what they were, like
Like
especially the IS likes.
The Jenner. The Jenner was one of them, I think.
Oh,
So-
like the Wolfhound, the Firestarter.
I mean, I love
Yeah,
using
this is,
Firestarter because-
Yeah, there's at least in the start of the video, I think he's quite on the point, at least with his point about the rescale. It wasn't just they did it across the whole series of mechs, which from a kind of immersion standpoint makes some sense. All the mechs should generally scale according to their tonnage. However, what we came across was obviously that the smaller mechs, the mediums, and particularly the lights become quite large targets relative to what they used to be. And according to how it's kind of balanced on tabletop, they're just so squishy and got so little weapons that for quite some time, at least, the lights were just out of the game entirely, or at least almost entirely. And
Well-
what PGI has done to balance that is obviously like something like the Wolfhound or the Urban Mech and such, is just give them a crap ton of survival quirks.
Well, we're also going to have to address the giant purple elephant in the room. Is that on tabletop there is the melee thing that you can do in the game, and that is a big check and balance to some of these fucking like problems we have in the game. Or mech collision, like you get these light mechs that just run around behind you and you can't see them as an assault. Well, if you just back up and knock the mech over, fucking problem solved.
Mm-hmm.
Exactly. Well, I was like,
Well, I don't
hatching out like
see-
with a
I
melee
mean,
weapon is. Sorry,
As
go
far
ahead.
as I'm aware on tabletop, the big mechs could just absolutely crush the smaller ones. But
Oh, yeah. If you get
Yeah.
punched by an Atlas, like fucking, GG.
Okay. But
But the
in the
rescale
first
though is like
person
what
shooter environment, at least before the rescale, the lights were super teeny tiny. They didn't have much of a payload, but they were so fast moving and teeny tiny that if you got one good hit on them, they would go down. But it was so hard to get a good hit on them, typically.
Well, it kind of was a circular issue with that one because they were so small and so fast moving, and the way that the hit registration in the game is, they were so tiny and hard to hit because of hit registration. So
Yeah.
that's another reason why they scaled the speed tweak down, is because after certain kph in the game, hit registration just becomes
Yep.
RNG at best.
is that why like you can't have like over I think like 165 or something like that, or
You can
167
do
for the
you can do
lowest?
about 169, but once they started releasing the really small mechs with mask, it broke the game, like, quite literally.
Mm-hmm.
So the rescale was actually just developed to go ahead and balance that out, kind of like a stopgap measure to make sure that the light mechs can actually survive or not survive.
No, well, the whole rescale was, I think, a consequence of a lot of people saying, "Oh, why is the Nova so big? The catapult is huge," and
Oh, okay.
the game was not consistent in its sizes at all, or at least with quite a few mechs. But it was only a few select mechs that were really, you know, beyond the pale in terms of how big or small they were compared to what they should be.
Now, I
Okay.
do have a love-hate relationship with how they implemented the volumetric sizing. Is they literally applied it to every single mech, which I think is how it should have been done. Like one applies to one, you should do it just across the board. Yeah, equal implementation of the rules.
Mm-hmm.
So
However,
like
there's two tragedies in the world: not getting what you want and getting exactly what you want.
Yeah.
I always want what I want, man.
Yeah.
But
But his overall point that I still agree with that I've been making is that lights had a niche that made them somewhat fun to play and viable, so to speak, before the rescale. With the rescale, the 35 tonners effectively became non-existent almost for a while, and it was just the locust really fast moving backwards and forwards. What they've done to rebalance this, though, and I mean, this will go into the engine desync later, is that they gave a lot of the light mechs a lot of durability. But this means you're in a Wolfhound that has a whole bunch of durability, and it's quite viable, at least with medium pulse lasers. You can get quite a good punch with it. Or you maybe want to pick a Raven, which doesn't have durability and falls apart as soon as someone breathes on it. So don't pick a Raven.
okay, okay, we got rescale. How about weapon balance? What do you guys, like he was talking about weapon balance as far as comp play and then also builds and everything. Like, what do you guys think about that?
They're chasing the dragon. As soon you
Yeah,
nerf Gauss PPC, they just find Gauss something else.
Yeah, and that's the
Gauss
way
large
it's.
laser.
Yeah, and that's just the way it's been lately, and it's like, and I think one of the things like he touched upon is that whenever you began doing this balance of all the weapons, it almost made the game. I mean, at least in my opinion, and I do agree to a point, that everything feels kind of the same. Like I can't build a mech and make it feel like it has a certain niche anymore.
Well, that's what
It's
the skill tree is actually designed for, is to go ahead and try to fill that niche. But I do agree with you though. Like when I do my builds, it's literally like, okay, well, what build am I going to do? Okay, well, it's numbers PPC, this. Okay, well, if I try E or PPC, it's kind of like the same, but I'll play. Yeah, it doesn't really feel different as far as when you start building stuff anymore.
I think for me personally, like when people talk about balance, I feel like sometimes you're missing the forest for the trees. It's all about medium maximization, and the biggest thing for Mechwarrior Online and the subject of this video is fun. Honestly, you could have a perfectly balanced game where you have two exactly the same built mechs fighting against each other, or 12v12 exactly the same mechs playing against each other on a perfectly symmetrical map to the end of time. But just because something is perfectly balanced does not mean it is fun. Not
Mhm.
1 inch.
Well, you're never going
And
to get balance too.
Yeah, it's
Yeah.
very hard to disagree with that statement. That's
Mhm.
a hard one to rebuke. So
Yeah.
I'm just
Yeah,
gonna
I mean,
follow up. Instead of making a direct approach and constantly trying to chase chassis and chase weapons, come at it sideways. Now, I think that during the voting screen, you should implement a little box on the side that says stock mode, and it
oh
immediately
yeah,
reverts all the mechs to stock. So if we
Mm-hmm.
start hitting these fucking teams, they're just like meta cheese out the ass rickrolling. It's like, okay, fine, stock mode, have fun.
Yeah, that like could you
dude,
imagine the
dude, no.
salt?
I would love it. I would
Oh
love
yeah,
every second of it.
same. I would
I do lore builds all the
revel in
time.
it.
the
I
only
do.
issue with that would be, at least if you're against those try-hard teams, they're predominantly in clan mechs, which stock builds are actually not half bad. Whereas in a sphere,
No.
if you're jumping in a sphere stock
Yeah,
builds,
yeah, it is
which
pretty
is more
bad.
likely in a random team, they're
Yeah.
going to suffer much more.
Man, like I've been doing personal lore builds for the last month, and let me tell you, man, it is a freaking hard to get like over 250 points of damage without just being breathed at or looked at funny, and then your whole mech falls apart. It is just it's so hard to do, especially when like everyone else is running meta mechs.
Okay,
Boss,
so
try running a few no armor builds, and you'll be set.
Oh, I've
Yeah,
done that. It's
yeah. It's a
So,
pain in the ass.
to return though to the issues of weapon balance,
Okay.
in my opinion, you want all the weapon systems to be fun and to have to have a certain niche to different play styles. And the big thing I like in the video, he mostly predominantly talks about lasers. And whilst it's totally true, something like small pulse lasers were really fun on the clans and nerfing the damage and making the heat okay and all that, just sort of they made them a lot less punchy and a lot less fun. But the biggest thing for me for build diversity is those other weapon systems, particularly projectile weapons. PGI with the skill tree and all this other things have constantly been nerfing the other weapons to somewhat, on the spreadsheet warrior at least, balance them compared to lasers. But the thing is with lasers, and Gorse at least, is they are simple, easy to use. You point them at the enemy target and you press the trigger and they instantly hit, easy peasy. Whereas projectile weapons are much more unreliable. You have to
Yeah.
lead your target. They have different types of trajectories, etc., etc. You have limited ammo. There's so many drawbacks to projectile weapons, but
it's fun.
they can be a hell of fun.
oh
So
yeah.
an example I would say would be like the SRM systems. They've been over time nerfing the spread on SRMs. Now,
Yeah.
the big fun thing for me back in the day, you take an Atlas S, you round a corner, and you deliver a pinpoint strike of SRM 24, AC 20 to someone's center torso. And yeah, that's quote unquote OP or whatever, but obviously my build is entirely short ranged. I have to get in super close, and when I expose myself, they're all going to shoot me back. So it feels fun blasting a mech away in 2 volleys, and it's a fair trade-off, and it's fun, but they nerfed the damn spread, and now those SRMs just splatter all over the place, and yes, I'm putting out a ton of damage, and now I'm fair compared to the laser boat in front of me, or the couple of laser boats in front of me, but I didn't want a fair fight. I wanted a fun fight. I wanted to crush all those laser boats in front of me, and I cannot do it.
See, in Byter,
You're,
and yeah,
you're
go
chasing
ahead.
the rock paper scissors mechanic of it. Like
Yeah.
they're long range. If the long range mech somehow manages to get into SRM range with an SRM boat, that should be the hard counter. That should be the congratulations, do not pass go, do not collect $200 moment for that laser boat.
Yeah,
It does
Exactly.
seem though that the laser boats are more effective ton wise and like everything else than actually having ballistics with limited ammo, SRMs with the spread and everything else. The laser boats and laser weapons are the most effective weapon out of the whole game itself.
yeah, and
yeah.
yeah, and kind of
They're
going
just so
off.
consistent.
Yeah, and kind of going off of the whole like what Byter and Snugs was saying is like, so in my eye, the way I see it is that like back in the day, yeah, lasers had range, missiles had like a huge alpha, but you had to be close range. But it feels like if if you were a missile boat and you could get into that giant laser boat range and dominate, it feels like you achieved something. You actually gained something. And mainly, if you were a laser boat and you could be sneaky and beat up on that missile boat, but over time stay out of his range, there was some sense of achievement. Now it just feels like it's just, I don't know how, it's just like I don't feel that right now.
you feel good, but you don't feel good. You don't feel
Yes.
powerful. You don't knock them away like Skittles like you
Yeah.
used to before.
Mhm.
And this is a funny thing. At least well, on the inner sphere side, you could invest tonnage into SRMs, but I mean, because they spread so much, why not just invest in MRMs? MRMs allow you to shoot much longer distance, and they spread all over the place anyway.
Yeah.
Well,
Mhm.
now that they desync them from your frames per second, they're a lot more consistent now.
Yeah.
So their fire volley used to be dependent on your fucking PC.
Which that was weird.
Yeah, so with brawling, with SRMs in particular, I've seen those sort of somewhat fall out of favor. They're still there in the Assassin 21, and that's about it. Maybe the Assassin 23 because people like ECM.
The Shadowhawk's not too bad as a CERN boat. It's not that bad at all.
There's plenty of
Enjoying
not
using
too
that
bad
one.
SRM
Yeah.
boats. I'm just saying, how many people do you see out there with SRMs and just, having a whole bunch of fun? I don't see it as often
Yeah.
anymore
I
at
mean,
all.
I still run a ridiculous amount of SRMs.
Mhm.
I mean, they're MRMs are nice for general. Like if I'm doing solo queue, probably I'll lean more towards MRMs. But if I'm in group queue, no, I'm just getting really, really close to people with SRM boats.
Just give them
Yeah.
hugs.
Yeah, well, a lot of people don't know how to mitigate damage from SRM boats really close.
Mhm.
Well, what's the best way?
So
Show
you
us only
just-
one.
Never look at them.
Never look at them.
Oh, well,
and
yeah.
It
and
sounds
that's-
really counterintuitive, but sometimes you got to give them your back to spread the damage.
It's true.
And it's also
If you have
yeah.
jump jets, you better jump up and hope they hit one of your legs. I mean, you got to really start getting creative ways to spread the damage.
Mhm.
True.
Yeah, so on the SRM side, yeah, I think the nerfs to its general spread and the nerfs to Artemis in particularly. Artemis, you're spending a slot and a ton every launcher. That's a huge investment, and it's not really so much worth it if it's just 15% compared to the 25% before.
Well,
True.
the Artemis really it depends on the mech. Like the Kentaros, where the hard points are just fucking scattered. Yeah, you want to do Artemis, but say like the Maulers, where all the hard points are really close together, you don't need Artemis because everything's already like, or the Zeus with its power fist. You don't need Artemis on that one because everything's fucking compacted together. The tubes are like stacked on top of each other. So in that sense, you're just kind of wasting the tonnage throwing Artemis on the Zeus,
Yeah.
So for that one, save the tonnage, up the engine, get closer.
Now,
Mhm.
the
Cyclops
other
10Q
angle
as well.
for projectile weapons would be Dakar.
Oh,
I just
yeah.
I have seen Dakar fall out of favor pretty strongly, and I think this all has to do with the UAC changes. At least since predominantly Dakar was taken with either heavily quirked IS mechs or UACs on clan mechs. And the changes to UACs, particularly with the extra jam chances for extra mouse clicks, that I think a lot of people are aware with, meant that UACs just became so unreliable to most people because they didn't know how to use them. They just are not that fun to use because it's a damage over time effect. You just you with Ballistix, you want to stand on top of a hill and then just start pointing at people and saying da, 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 da. And that's with the cooldown quirks reduced on Inner Sphere and UAC's always jamming on clan, you stand on top of the hill, go da da da. Oh,
And then you're done.
1 moment.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, it's just you
I've
can't win the trade over time. You can't just keep shooting and shooting and shooting because you jam up a lot of the time. A lot of people find that happening to them.
Only
So
way
in
actually.
the larger mechs where you can boat a lot of ballistics, especially the heavies and the assault categories. I mean, the game does have the community kind of conditioned to do Alpha Strike online. So if you have a lot of UACs, you might want to chain fire and then just have an unrelenting spray of UX. But that's a lot of face time that a lot of people aren't willing to commit to.
Mhm.
Plus
Yeah,
the
it's
jam
always
chance
been-
is what's always been really a bad issue, at least for me. Using like even with a negative 40%, I still jam like freaking crazy. And it's like I fired 2 shots and jammed. It's like, okay, well that's like 5 to 10 seconds of doing nothing except for shooting my like medium laser at them, type thing.
Yeah, and that's like one thing,
that's-
and yeah, that's probably like one thing too that I'm finding out, at least in solo queue, which I've done more recently. Not much group queue, but like people don't. Yeah, I know. I'm busy doing that Boba Fett contest, which is almost done.
I understand that.
Oh my god.
I understand.
What is that? I keep seeing that in chat.
Oh, the Boba Fett thing. I did a contest and I announced it back in December for people to give me theme builds that were Boba Fett themed, and I was gonna choose a winner like late December, but life happened. So it's gotten pushed back. So I'm choosing a winner probably by the end of this month. No, but yeah, but the one thing is so in
Shit, I need to submit. I got some fucking ideas.
well, if you want, it's kind of late, but if you want to, go ahead and I'll put you in as a very late possible one.
More time for Larsh.
Oh, for fuck's sake, no! But anyway, so digressing huge. So at least in solo queue, when it comes to just like ACs and UX, I don't really see him much in game anymore because people don't want to give FaceTime.
Yeah.
Is that people seem like they want to go ahead and use either the laser or a quick SRM volley, and in anymore, all I see, at least in tier 1, is they go up, they'll face, shoot, turn, face, turn, face, turn. There's never any full-on brawl, which is what I love to see in group queue. But I never see it in
die
solo.
quicker from brawling.
Well,
Yeah, but it's fun.
Yeah.
To be fair, though, I would actually say the one ballistics, the main ballistic system I see used a lot of the time would be racks, and that of course still requires a lot of FaceTime. But it's got, at least on paper, 2 rack 5s has very good DPS, and it is quite consistent for the time it's firing, unlike a UAC would be.
Yeah.
I was gonna say the rack mechanic. I find myself using 2 rack 5s more than UX, unless I can, like on a night gur where I can get 5 Ultra 2s and just do some shenanigans that way.
Okay, so we got weapon balance, or a little bit like of that. I'm trying to just move along here. We got skill tree. Skill tree, the elephant, the real elephant inside the room. Oh my god.
Okay.
So much clicking.
So yeah, the skill tree. Okay, so I really liked the skill tree when it was announced, or I guess when they pushed it off and re-announced it. That's when I liked the skill tree. That's also when I had way more time to play this game, is when I liked the skill tree. But as time has gone on and time has become more narrow, at least on my end, I'm finding that I'm not using a lot of mechs because I just don't have time to get the skill tree done. As now I'm running out of what it wasn't not S. Yeah, the like points the free points. I'm running out of the free point system, whatever, the GSP or whatever the hell it was, or the historical skill points. I'm running out of those. So now anymore, whenever I'm here on like a Friday or maybe that weekend once in a while, I just take out the things that I've skilled up, and I haven't really gone back to explore a lot of the mechs I enjoyed using. So.
Well, two big glaring fixes that need to happen, or one of two, I should say, that need to happen: either a template or a fast point. So, my
template,
my survival tree never changes. Every single mech I have, it's always 33 points in, and I never take AMS. So, if I can just template that and then just immediately populate all of that tree, that would be fantastic.
You know what?
They haven't done it yet, though. That's kind of weird. That's a simple thing that they can pop in. Now,
yeah, because
just like the. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
Oh yeah, because it'd be useful is that it's like, let's say if you go into the skill tree and like, let's say kind of like what Snugs wants to do. He wants to just fill out the survival tree. There should be a button at the top of that tree that says like fill or complete. One click fills it, and then maybe because you don't have AMS, you could just do those 2 little bam bam and then unclick them, and then you're done with that fill. And then at that point you would need to still figure out the SP conversion and all that BS. But I never really master a lot of my mechs because it's just very time consuming now.
That's what
I haven't mastered a lot of mechs either. Basically, like I get those 33 points in the survival tree, and I call them good because that's pretty much all you really need. Everything else can be corrected with proper positioning. Like
that's what Dane was saying. Like with the with the maneuver tree, You just proper positioning of where you're going to be going. You really don't need that whole tree, except for maybe one or two torso twisting. That's about it, basically, to go twist faster. But that's it. You don't need that tree. Also, he was saying that basically that the you don't need all those skills. It's a lot of clicking that you actually to go and have to click through. If you actually divide them in half, like let's say if you click say all the like heat scale and heat scaling thing, it gives you 10%. Only make 5 of them now. Like a 5 at getting plus 2% instead of only getting plus 1%. Be a lot better. But they have to refocus the whole tree itself. But generalization though, I mean, I personally like the tree because there's a lot more customization, but I do want some type of template. Period. I mean,
Yeah.
I'm sick and tired of clicking.
And Byter, go ahead. Since
I would say I differ from you guys at least a little bit. I don't think necessarily the skill tree is the most key issue with the game balance and the amount of fun having. I would agree with the general sentiment that that was what I had generally with the skill tree as well, that hasn't got very good at affordances. It is a giant, huge mess of nodes all over the place. But in terms of customization and all that stuff, it does play into the strength of Mechwarrior Online. What I will say, and there's a few ways to look at it. One would be in terms of balance, which indeed there's a whole slew of stuff to talk on that, because PGI completely rebalanced the game, of course, according to the skill tree, the changes of the skill tree. The nerfs to SRMs I've been talking about, the spread stuff, has been taken place because they said, oh no, there's some spread nodes in the skill tree that people could use to make it even more pinpoint, and then they just basically screwed over SRMs entirely. And indeed, some trees like jump jets or mobility are just really, for the points investment, not as worthwhile as something like survival, firepower, or of course the most biggest defender, the auxiliary tree.
I find myself doing like specialized mechs now, like like getting getting only the artillery tree and getting sensors and stuff like that. I find myself doing that a lot more lately than actually making a vast wealth of like like nodes here and there and there. I custom focus on what I'm gonna be doing for that mech itself.
In terms of fun, though,
I mean that's my fun though.
Yeah. In terms of fun in the skill tree, I agree that the terrible affordances and the look of it does not serve the game that well. The mech lab looks lovely and it's fun to mess around with it. The skill tree, though, it's sort of scrolling through a weird spreadsheet. And I know everyone loves scrolling through spreadsheets.
What, you mean Excel doesn't turn you on? Sheesh, come on.
I mean,
let me create you a pie chart.
Yeah, ooh, pie chart. Which flavor?
The other thing is, at least compared to the previous skill system, it was like in an RPG, to start with, it doesn't take you very much to start skilling up your hero. It goes from getting from level 1 to 5 is very different from 15 to 20 in D&D. And that was sort of how the previous skill tree worked. And I think there were some advantages to it, because it was like, just get 1,000 experience points and you get the kinetic burst node or whatever. You could buy a couple of nodes with a few KXP, and that last module, 21K, was something you had to work for. Skill tree on the other.
It was a doubling effect. So if you took the 2150 or 21,500 points it took to unlock the mastery node, that was what the basic and all of the elite nodes combined cost.
Yep, exactly. It's an escalating cost to finally master your hero to go to top level, so to speak. But with the skill tree, it's the same curve throughout, 800 XP all the time. And I think in terms, at least, what you guys are talking about, like there's a lot of mechs you don't want to skill out. It's because you have no skill nodes whatsoever, and you play a match and you earn 2.
Yes, and that's why like things like the double XP weekend for like when the Piranha came out, that was beneficial. Now on the same line as double XP weekend and XP and stuff like that, could we please just get rid of the idea of skill points, SP? Could we just gain skill points from playing a match, or be able to just get these nodes via XP? It just seems so redundant to have to purchase XP with XP and C bills and combine them, and it just seems to me it seems very redundant to do that.
It's kind of
Well,
like the
with the amount of nodes that you can unlock, like 91, I think one game it just gives you one node point, like one skill point per game. Because if you don't have a mech mastered by 91 games,
Oh yeah, it's just, but it's kind of nice to at least get 3, you know, if you have like a decent match.
Well,
But
that's
then
why I have the
yeah,
first mech, and the first mech of the day. Then also they have the double XP events, and then also you get the plus. The champion mechs give like 30% like XP as well, right?
yeah, the champions give extra
You
XP.
can, yeah. Yeah.
I haven't used those for years, so but the whole thing is like that's what they want you to do is play those mechs like one a day. I'll play this mech because I know I need to use that mech, or I need to use it like multiple times to get those get those nodes. But I do agree with you though on the C bills, because literally like yeah, the XP event was kicking. It was awesome. The only problem is that I got so much XP I was losing money based
Yeah,
on
because
that.
you had to
Purchasing
purchase skill
XP. Yeah,
points. It seems
exactly.
stupid. But moving on real quick in terms of the skill tree, there's probably one last thing I would like him to see implement is that before they had the skill tree, I would change my builds around quite often. It was never a week where I would keep the same build on a mech for very long, because I wanted to go ahead and change it and tinker with it. But now, since because I'm the kind of player who does dabble in the firepower tree for certain ranges and cooldowns and extra ammo and stuff like that, I don't want to change it because it will cost money and time. But
That's the biggest issue I have as well.
that's the biggest issue for me, but I would love it is that if there was a way to say, before I respec a skill tree and bring it back to 0, if I could just save my skill tree as like this skill tree and then name it as like ballistic skill tree, missile skill tree for this whatever mech, and then I go ahead, respec it, make it into a different loadout, but then still be able to do like a one-click back save to what I had before. I think that would be a huge time saver in my opinion.
well,
Oh, yeah,
yeah,
definitely.
that's the game, or sorry, the Mech Lab needs to go more in the direction of customizability on the user level. What I've been doing to get around that, and it's not necessarily the correct fix, it's more just throwing a band-aid on the problem, but just only specking into generalized like cooldown, range, and heat generation in the firepower tree, like nothing else, nothing specific to any weapon type. That way it can just keep bouncing around. But again, that's not the correct solution to the problem.
True.
I think
Usually, if
what,
I've got like the missile cyclops, I spec into missiles, and it's going to fit most of my builds on that thing.
well, yeah,
Um,
true. There's obvious exceptions to that, but say take
Yeah.
like the Timberwolf, where you can literally run everything on one chassis.
Yep.
You're doing generalized quirks just so you don't chase yourself into the poorhouse.
Yeah, it's as I said, like it's an RPG system it's the same level of grind throughout, and you're always starting at the bottom, and it takes forever to get up to the top because that grind is spread out throughout, scaling up the mech rather than being weighted towards the end. So yeah,
Right.
overall, for me at least personally, I do not mind the skill tree. I think at least it's going to exacerbate any other problems with the game. If the game itself in the actual gameplay or the mech lab isn't fun, and then you look back at the skill tree and you're just like, it does not help things.
Yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Sometimes when I do my builds, I'm like, oh crap, I gotta redo this whole thing because I switched on my loadout. God damn it.
It just
It's like,
fucks up
geez.
everything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it could be a good complementary piece. Well, if it was implemented in a way that had better affordances, it could have been a great complementary piece. As the moment, it kind of complements however good or bad the game is.
I mean, I am glad they brought that in though, because the old skill tree just felt like they just forgot about it for like 4 years, like pretty much. So I am glad they brought this in. Don't get me wrong, but like we've been talking, there's some issues they need to fix with this as well.
Yeah,
Mhm.
and I mean, it all plays into, of course, though. I think this is one thing the video doesn't really necessarily touch on, but I feel a bit. I mean, it does a bit, but it's like he's talking about the skill tree, and therefore, of course, PGI rebalances the game in other
Yeah,
ways. And a big thing with that was PGI wanted to reduce the number of large quirks out there in the game, and
brings us to into
um,
desync.
yeah, and just his general preponderance towards the PGI's preponderance, I should say, towards nerfs.
Okay, so we got skill tree and how good and bad it is. So
Yeah,
next we're
we've
going to go to engine desync. Ooh,
engine.
the
Well,
Yeah.
if you don't mind me, I mean, this
yeah,
is
go ahead.
a overarching thing that I didn't put as a specific point he made, but it's something
Hmm.
he mentions throughout, which is PGI is always sort of, it feels like, at least to a lot of people, that they're typically nerfing things. So the Kodiak comes out a bit too strong,
Yeah,
so eventually they nerf it and they nerf its agility into the ground. The Nightgear is on top, so instead of bringing everything up and making everything fun as fun as the Nightgear, they just bring the Nightgear down. And this was the same thing with the skill tree, that a lot of mechs did somewhat benefit from it, but they also just cut quirks, sometimes like in half across the board all over the place. And a lot of the quirks still don't necessarily really make that much sense.
okay. And like, do you think they throw a dart at a dartboard saying, okay, well that guy gets plus 10% weapon skill, type thing, or the range skill? Do you
Well,
think they do that,
I
or
think what they say in PGI's patch notes very often is they're saying, "Oh, according to our spreadsheets or how we feel the game is going, we want to balance things out, and so therefore we're nerfing this. We're bringing this into line." And the problem with that has just been uh, heavy PPCs, for example, were quite fun, but they were always a huge investment to what, the inner sphere PPCs. They never were that great in the first place. And they're like, oh, this thing's doing a little bit too well. Let's increase the cooldown.
Yeah,
Yeah.
which kills me, and kind of like how you brought up the Kodiak 3 and the Spirit Bear. When those things came out, they were monsters, and whenever you
God,
saw
yeah.
and the thing is, and when you saw them in game, you were like, oh shit, it's time for the big boss battle.
Well, just like the Annihilator.
Yeah, I want
Thing, man.
I want to go hug it and kill this damn thing because it is my boss battle. And God, the accomplishment you would get from just being a light mech, shooting it in the butt and going around it and pissing off that player was just miraculous. But now it's like, here it is again.
Kill it.
Just,
Yeah, no.
Well, okay, so we have a little bit of things going on here. Like the Kodiak 3 was fucking king of the jungle for a while, and then the Scorch came out,
mm-hmm.
Yeah.
and it basically was like, no, I'm sorry, you need to go sit down for a second, think about your life, and then we get the Mad Cat Mark II. So now we have a lot more things, and then the Annihilator. So now we have this massive power creep, and we have all the shit we've been exposed to, and then suddenly Kodiak turns his corner, and we're like, oh, something familiar. I know how to deal with this. Sure, it's terrifying, but there's already a set order of operation, so the community already knows how to deal with Kodiaks. I mean, we're still kind of cementing in how to properly and consistently, as a group, enter that kind of group think phase to drop an Annihilator.
Well, the Kodiak, at least, is always it was always quite a big target, and that survival stuff made it balance it out quite a bit. But now, of course, without the survival, it's this big, super clumsy blob just waddling forwards. It can still do the pain, but it's UX jam up all the time. It's a huge, easy target, and everyone knows to focus a Kodiak when they see it.
Oh yeah.
Well, with Annihilators, there's this fucking weird wiggle room because they're so slow. They're like dire whales. Like if your team is fast enough, you can just effectively take it out of the fight by not being in its cone of fire for a while.
Mm-hmm.
You can do creative things to take the mech out of the fight without killing it.
Yep.
Not so much with a Kodiak, because those are fast.
Yeah.
True.
Yeah. To return to my point about buffs and nerfs, it's like with the skill tree, like a classic example from my perspective at least was the Vindicator 1R. Before the skill tree, I played that thing a lot.
Yeah.
That thing was a joy to play because you took an underperforming, kind of silly inner sphere mech and buffed it. You made it fun and interesting. Buffs are fun. They're cool. You can do crazy things with it. And that was what the Vindicator 1R was all about. It had 80% acceleration quirks, meaning it could start and stop on a dime. It had max jump jets for me, so I jump really high up in the air. And its hitboxes aren't bad. It's got like 20% cooldown, 20% heat reduction. I'm rapid firing PPCs off whilst poking around corners and jumping over hills and all that stuff. It was a lot of fun. The skill tree comes around and they go, oh no, that thing has high cooldown quirks. With the skill tree, they could get cooldown up to 30%. The Vindicator might be OP. Let's nerf the velocity. Let's nerf the cooldown. Let's nerf the heat gen. And that feels terrible. And it has standard blackjack agility now. It doesn't turn on a dime. And it did get some wins on the skill tree. It did. Its armor quirks got percentage buff because of the survival tree. That was great. It's super tanky. But whilst I got a buff in some respects, I got a lot of nerfs in other respects. And it wasn't like the Vindicator was storming over Mechwarrior Online, taking games by storm, and it was just 12v12 Vindicator matches. So that sounds kind of funny.
Not to take us into Salt territory, but as much as the group of us play Mechwarrior, how many times do you see the developers on?
Almost never.
Not much.
I think they're in the cycle of looking at a mech on paper and assuming that it's going to be a powerhouse in the game. Because you see all these high cooldowns and high quirks on the Vindicator, and they're like, oh shit, it's going to be a monster. And meanwhile, they don't realize it's a Vindicator, so it's a self-correcting problem.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Finish.
Yeah, go ahead.
To finish my point, though, at least with the feeling of loss of fun over time, particularly for veteran players, is because I and most other humans are typically loss averse. All the losses I talked about hurt me twice as hard as the things I gained. Oh yeah, I got some armor, but I lost all the things that made this mech really fun. Why did you take that away, PGI? Yes, I know there's a skill tree, but it wasn't like the Vindicator was this overpowered mech. It was something fun. It was something I could take to the field and say, haha, I actually can make Innosphere PPCs good. and now there's hardly any Innosphere PPCs because, oh no, we don't want 40% velocity. Imagine if the projectile moved quickly. That would be fun.
No.
Oh no, not something fun, PGI.
You make a good point, though.
That PPC is probably about the only thing that mech has going for it.
Yeah, but
it's a fun mech for that, though.
But the guy who does balance, I mean, doesn't he actively play? I mean, granted, I'm never friends with him on the friend list, so I don't know when he's online. But the guy who does the main balancing, isn't he usually on sometimes? Isn't he?
I never see the guy.
Yeah,
I never see him, but he does play a fair amount.
Byter does make a good point, though, as far as fun. I know I definitely used to use the Centurion D because I love the LB10X quirk of 60% cooldown time. I used to just blast away and I could blow through 160 rounds in one match, no problem. I mean, I loved it. I loved that. That was just so much fun. And then Locust 1B, the same thing.
Oh.
You know what? Just joop 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 joop. With large lasers. But. But I rarely use that mech now. I rarely use the 1B and plus the Centurion D because it went from 60 down to like 35 or something like that, and which doesn't compare to the power creep that's happening for all the different other mechs that they just just kill me like crazy when I can't.
It's basically before you had one OP thing about your mech, and that was what you specialized in, and that was fun.
Exactly.
And PGI has been flatlining everything so it all looks fine on a spreadsheet. But no, these quirks are actually the fun part of the game, but at least particularly on the Innosphere side. This is why I always enjoyed Innosphere, is they were the underdogs that were given overpowered crazy powers, and I could go into the field and go, ha! I've got this rapid-firing LBX-10, face me! And people go, oh, no, it's an Innosphere mech! And that felt brilliant.
But now, like I said, is that because everything's been debuffed or nerfed or whatever, everything flatlined, everything just kind of feels kind of samey.
Exactly, and that's not fun. If you have a perfectly balanced game, it does not mean the game is fun. The game in this particular game is fun when various different weapon systems are viable. that means weapons like projectile weapons, SRMs, PPCs, ballistics, all need to have a really strong niche to make them worthwhile compared to the point-and-click weapons of lasers and Gorse.
I know for me though, being an ANDRESARIE pilot, I love the challenge going against clan pilots, because if I beat you with a lesser crappy mech against the clan pilots, you need to rethink your blood name basically.
And that's
And,
why I miss the
love
old
challenge.
Kodiak. That's why I miss
love
the
challenge of
old Kodiak and the old crazy bullshit you would
Yeah.
see, and then being that underdog, and then being like, I've done the thing I wanted to do. I feel good now. Now I can log
Exactly.
off and go to sleep. And
I just love the challenge of being an ANDRESARIE pilot, and that's the reason why. Well, one of the reasons why I'm definitely like ANDRESARIE, because it's a challenge. I mean, I'm not saying the clans isn't a challenge either, but it's a lot easier because it's a better mech overall. Heat sinks, the engine and everything else, and plus the structures and everything. So it's much better than ANDRESARIE mech in certain terms as far as balance wise.
Mm-hmm.
But
We,
yeah, so
because they've flatlined everything, what happens, and this is something he covers in the meta, is that what you want to take are solid, good, dependable mechs onto the field, rather than quirky, weird, interesting mechs. And that is fundamentally the reason why, obviously, everything is tending towards point-and-click adventure game, because the Hellbringer is a very, very good, dependable point-and-click adventure mech. And that's perfectly fine.
Yep.
If that wasn't the only thing that was currently in the game. If you're a point-and-click adventure mech, if somebody at SRM Brawler comes around the corner, it shouldn't be a fair fight. You should just disappear off the map. But it's not that case. That Hellbringer does a huge alpha and takes off a side torso, or at least it's going to trade itself fairly well against that Brawler who had to stay low the entire match and couldn't assert himself on the battlefield, whereas the point-and-click adventure guy could.
Yeah,
True.
But anyway, we've been really going on a tangent, which is fantastic, by the way. But I think we actually had engine desync as a thing. Do we have any thoughts about what like back when they did that, when they made the engine desync?
Now, they did this with the skill tree, right? Basically
at the same time.
It was a 2-hit combo.
Because skill tree,
as Dave Carrington says, the idea was that you could balance mechs according to their agility and bring certain overperforming mechs in line, or buff up mechs that weren't performing so well.
But the problem is though that basically with the agility tree, with the skill tree, that as the Sungles popped out, or said, basically you just have to position yourself better, and you don't need the agility tree, especially for like assault mechs. You don't need that. So basically, as far as balance, when they wanted to go do this, they wanted you as a assault pilot to use the agility tree to move a little bit better, to move a little bit faster, type thing. But really, it plays no importance, and you just got to position yourself.
What I would say is, again, like with weapon quirks and whatnot, the agility quirks are somewhat flatlined. There aren't any mechs with really supremely brilliant agility. Now, obviously, there are some that have quite nice agility. So something like a Cyclops has the agility of a 60-tonner. It can get started and slow down as good as a rifleman can, which is pretty cool for an assault mech to do that.
Yeah.
But it's not super uber duper amazing. And yes, sure, there's a dragon, for example, that I think has the agility of like a 35-tonner, like a Firestarter.
Or a linebacker.
Yeah, there are some nice agility stats out there, but it's just kind of, it's kind of nice. What before with the engines, you could put a giant engine into a mech with agility quirks like the Quick Draw 4G and my beloved Vindicator 1R, and you could start stop instantly. They were quote unquote OP for agility, just the same like with the Locust.
Yeah.
And because everything is so, like, even with the Locust, you can't, the most agile mech in the game, it can't actually start and stop really quickly. It can't just zoom, zoom, zip, 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 zoom as well as it used to. And that killed the previous viability of the Locust. And that kills most agility playstyles. The only one OP case I can think of in the game would be the Assassin, because that thing has good hitboxes. It's a tall, thin, spindly thing that starts and stops on a dime.
Well, the agility argument, I mean, we are playing big stompy robots, and they have, in none of the other Mechwarrior titles have they been this agile.
Yeah.
And another unforeseen thing with the engine desync is it was a passive way to nerf people. If I wanted a brawler that could torso twist faster, I gave up some firepower to put a bigger engine in.
Yeah.
So
Yeah,
it did curb that. Like now that like, oh, I can just run like 3 or something kph slower and gain an extra 4 tons, like especially in the assault categories where the engines do that.
Yep.
Like fuck, there's really no reason to anymore. It used to be I torso twist faster, and that was a paramount.
Yeah.
I'm forgetting the big word
For
that I'm
this
trying to use.
kind of snap shooting first person shooter thing, the engine being the fast movement of the engines and being able to pick bigger engines was critical. At least it was a big part of the fun, in my opinion. And by flatlining everything, again, it just makes it all more monotone, in my opinion.
Yeah, the same balance.
Yeah, it's more balanced. Hooray!
Yeah, it's more balanced.
But it's not more fun.
That like that's why I've been finding myself doing specialized builds, and that's it. Just so I do something different instead of the same exact crappy thing everyone else does. But let's get to is that enough for engine desync, guys?
Oh, well, the other point he made was just it was supposed to allow you to really balance out the mechs, but as I said, in my opinion, it flatlined everything, so there isn't actually that much need for change. And even when they are buffing things like Cicada and the Inner Sphere Jenna and Clan Jenna, yes, you made it. I have nicest agility, but now I have slightly nicer-ish agility.
Yeah.
It does not save the mechs.
And I guess maybe because I just never really paid attention too much, I just never really noticed that much of a difference. This is me.
It's true. I know from between all the agilities.
Really. Yeah, it's just that I know they announced it. I know I saw it on the patch notes. I saw the math, but I guess in terms of feeling, I felt a little bit, but I don't think it was that much of a difference. It really affected the game too much.
I mean, I don't mind actually having a light mech with a better type of engine that could turn quicker, go a little bit faster, that kind of stuff. Like, and keeping the engine sync, I guess, whatever it's going to be called, keeping it like that, or certain mechs are like that because they're designed in, we'll quote the lore, to be like that, and that's why they're so good. Like the dragon, basically keep whatever was before, that's fine, and then you can buff it up like through the through the skill tree itself. Certain mechs, obviously with assault mechs, you're not going to find it's going to go quicker, turn faster, or go up and down, like whatever, basically. That is fine to go do that and keep it like that. But like you said, desyncing pretty much made it vanilla across the board, so like pretty much people had to use the skill tree to go ahead and spend those 91 points that we need to go ahead and use.
Yeah, but
well, as he said in the video, it's just not worth it getting the agility nodes. Your mech has a certain level of agility, and it's better just picking a small engine, putting it all into firepower, and just going pew pew pew.
Yes, which I think next point I think we could probably go into that we had listed was the consumables. Is that really a big point? The how we can get extras? Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, yeah.
Well, I guess airstrikes now are a big thing.
Well, I mean, that's literally how I got my Piranha with like I think 1100 points of damage. It was dropping perfectly strike
with free damage.
With free damage, and that's pretty much how I got that. And it seems to be overpowered, especially when you're fighting a 12-man unit that actually uses it a lot. Like we had that issue the other day where literally it just every single time they started dropping airstrikes, boom, 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 started dropping our mechs like crazy. And it does overpower the game, and it seems like you have your own personal aerospace fighter just to come in and go bomb everybody. It's like your own personal guy. There's like in a whole regiment, there's 108 mechs, but you have 108 aerospace fighters on call for each person to go drop their bombs on. And that's what it kind of kills the lore, at least, or the ambiance for me when that happens. Maybe like there's been talk to actually have like the commander of the unit only have the ability to go and use everyone else's like airstrikes, but only like once or twice a game or something, which will make sense.
I would agree with the points he made in the video, because I think, as I said, mechs have been flatlined, weapons have been flatlined, agility has been flatlined, but with the skill tree, there's this one thing at the far side that doesn't require that much investment, but everything in it is the one remaining overpowered part in Mechwarrior Online, and that is all the consumables. Cool shots, UAVs, and strikes. Strikes are the things that we most pay attention to, but it's like, yeah, they do a crap ton of damage, whereas everything else is kind of in terms of how they hurt people. But yeah, the cool shots, I think he's very valid at the point on cool shots. You could take 2 maximized cool shots with improved cooldown and make a really hot build, just pump out way more damage than anyone else who didn't take cool shots. So take 2 maximized strikes, take 2 maximized cool shots. Oh, and those UAVs, whilst of course they aren't allowing you to shoot more or deal damage with random bombs from the sky, it gives you intel. You press a button, free intel in the whole area around you. You know where all the enemy mechs are and where they're facing. That is also extremely valuable. All of the consumables
I don't see that much now.
Yeah, most people are taking strikes and whatnot as well. But I would say even if you nerf strikes, even if you nerf cool shots, UAVs are also a huge, powerful thing. And before the skill tree, there was only so many consumables you could take. Like a lot of mechs only could take 1, and that 1 slot you unlocked by mastering the tree could put another consumable or another mech node or something like that. And some mechs like the Locust were able to take 3 consumables, but now everyone is able to take 6 overpowered or 6 very powerful activatable abilities that don't play into your builds not that much at all. They just are free power plays, and whoever spends the most C bills in a match is generally going to come out ahead, or at least that's the one OP thing in this game left.
Now, going full circle back to skill tree, of course you can get that if you're willing to put all your nodes in one basket.
It's not even that many nodes though with the auxiliary tree. That's the thing. Maximizing artillery, how much does it cost? Like,
it does a lot of damage, man.
It does
a lot. It can kill like we had old Bob killed Larsh in a Piranha.
Yeah, that was the first match we did.
You were fresh too.
I had not a scratch of damage, and then pump. Oh well, fuck. I'm dead.
Oh, I'm sorry, Larsh. Sorry about that.
he's not sorry. He's gonna do it again.
Oh, I didn't. Bob's blind. He'll probably do it again. I'm sure.
Exactly.
Yeah. So I'm waddling around in this really clumsy alpha, point and click adventure game mech, and I see some enemies over there. I point and click with my laser weapons, and I point and click with my RT strike, and just damage flies all over the place. And you know what? It's not that fun.
Yeah,
that's the core problem. And I think, at least for me, I do not care one bit for strikes. Like if they, I'm not sure exactly what you could do. If they were like a flame strike and anyone in the flames took a debuff, that would encourage striking and then pushing. But as it is, it's just an OP press free damage button. And it is just not fun. I do not care for strikes. I do not care for cool shots. I use cool shots all the time, but that's because I have to try and carry the team.
Well, it appears my goal is clear. I'm going to have to try and break 1,000 damage with a mech with just a flamer and a small laser.
With
nothing but strikes.
You might be able to.
12 machine guns, 2 airstrikes, and 1 flamer.
Not gonna lie.
I did it on a Piranha, so it is possible.
No. I'm gonna have to do it on the objectively worst mech in the game, the Spider 5V. 2 energy hard points in the chest.
Oh,
God. That's gonna be
all of the consumables.
A mech like that, exactly. It needs those OP quirks to make it fun. But no, it's got too high a cooldown. Better take it down to 20%.
While we're talking about mechs with really high cooldown, for the Boba Fett challenge, I just uploaded the Gridiron with 2 light Gauss, and with the appropriate skills, you can get that light Gauss cooldown to 1.8 seconds.
Wait, uploaded to what?
I put it on your Discord, bro.
Oh, it's on mine. Oh, I'm in the wrong Discord. Oh, down here. Ooh, okay. I'll need to look at that later.
So I guess consumables, they are overpowered, and we're all agree that basically there should be something done to not have your own personal aerospace fighter.
God, fuck.
The PGI argues, it's to make sure that teams don't bunch up and whatnot. But that again, nerfs the damn brawlers. Their weapons are nerfed, their torso twisting is nerfed, they're getting struck to shit. Well, everyone has to spread apart and start playing point-and-click adventure games because you can't ball up, or at least you're punished against balling up. And it's also, whilst I like the delay, it's still you're not actually seeing a lot of the strikes before they arrive. And particularly for the smaller mechs, I absolutely love having half my mech instantly taken out from nowhere, like or taken out from allied stuff.
Oh God.
I played with the Melted Metal crew, and we were playing a pounce playstyle.
Jeez, Snugs, you got a seizure there. For fuck's sake, Snugs.
Right? So we were all playing a pounce playstyle. I'm in the Skokomish.
Before you get started at all, the most complaining I hear about teams from Team Damage comes from MM. I mean, I'm not saying correlation equals causation. I'm just saying.
Anyway, go on.
Was we're all charging headlong at the enemy. We're using whatever mechs people have got. As long as it goes over 100 kph and has brawl weapons, we said it's A-OK. And so I took a Skokomish, obviously. And we absolutely trounced a team on a Rubelite Oasis. It was lots of fun. But one guy at the end said, by the way, guys, I got like 700 team damage or thereabouts. We only lost one guy to the enemy, and that was like a suicide. So this guy did 700 team damage because we all pounced. Like, he put a strike down, and then everyone jumped on whoever he struck. Crazy amount of damage. So yeah, you can totally get that like crazy amount of damage with strikes, even on your own team. It turns out.
Yeah, every unit has that guy. I happen to have two of them. One of them does really creative ways to kill his teammates. Like, I got killed with friendly streak missiles once.
Oh, we've done that. Oh, our Discord's full of that.
Yeah. Okay, so
Ian, the other day, I was in an Atlas, and I managed to juke a Madcat Mark II when I was stripped. And I went off to cap the thing, and it was like, "Hey, Byter!" And he dropped his strike and then ran behind me and killed both of us. It was glorious.
Okay. Oh, also, Bob, I think these last 2 points, which I think is what we're rolling into, I think these last 2 points could just be combined at this point, honestly, since we've gone over a whole lot. But the last points we had listed were the current meta and the ongoing thing that is power creep.
Yep.
So yeah, that's why I've been bringing up the current meta. Everything's point-and-click adventure game. Everything's been flatlined. So point-and-click adventure game is usually the way to go, and I think I fully agree with that. And he is correct. That is why it is not fun, because sluggish clan laser vomit predominantly dominates, whereas everything else falls by the wayside.
Well, on that note, gentlemen, I'm actually going to have to take off.
Oh, no worries, Snugs. It's always a pleasure.
Thank you for stopping by.
I was just really excited. I got home in time to actually.
No, this is great. I'm glad you can make it. Thanks.
Yeah, definitely, man. You're always welcome.
Yeah.
Try not to have too much fun.
Oh, we won't.
But like you're saying, Byter though later, and like you're saying though, like with the GOS PPC, that got nerfed, and then it went to like the next meta, that got nerfed. So like every time the players actually develop some type of meta or some type of way to go kill really quickly or do something like that, gets completely nerfed out of existence, or nerfed to a certain point that it's not really able to be used as effectively as it was before. So they go off to another thing, and so basically, it's kind of like they're actually trying to like discourage meta. But meta is fine though, because mechs are like that. But like we keep on saying though, balance is hard to go ahead and bring from tabletop to an online first-person shooter. And with the sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, I was just on that point on the balancing. It's funny because the way they balanced it is according to certain sensibilities. As I said, yes, mechs like the Kodiak and the Nightcheer got nerfed, and for those who enjoyed them at the time, obviously that it doesn't feel great, but it was everywhere, and so it made people could sort of accept that. The problem I have, the biggest problem, is when you nerf not just the best super meta dominating mechs, but all the other ones as well. Why is my Vindicator 1R nerfed? Why is so many other, like the Locust 1V, horrendously nerfed from what it used to be? It wasn't like they were the meta. It's not like they were something that people just got angry at seeing. Just like, oh, great, another dual PPC Vindicator.
I actually got
Oh,
pissed off at
no.
that, to tell you the truth. Like, I really pissed off.
But yeah, it's not the same as, when everyone was Gorse PPC sniping with the Night Cheer. Not at all. And yes, they brought super overperforming mechs down, and that I can be fine with, but nerfing everything across the board is, in my opinion, the biggest cause of the unfunding MWO. At least for me, I have a large library of mechs, and I had lots of fun with them back in the day, and there's still quite a bit of fun to be had with them. But because everything is so flatlined, including at the bottom level, it's just not fun.
Yeah, and which is kind of like, how we kind of said that, right, we just go back to the things we just use every day. Like, there's not much of me going back to that weird quirky mech that had weird things going for it, and it's just, it's just not there anymore.
Yeah,
because you find it with the meta though, like you use those types of mechs, like like let's say the Centurion D, I'll use it, but it's not as fun because everyone else is using meta mechs and blowing my ass away when I'm trying to like shoot my LB10X at 30% instead of 60. So it's not as fun as it was before.
So now with that, what do we think is like the current meta that we see every day?
I don't know, to tell you the truth.
Sluggish, Clan, Laser, Vomit dominates. The guy is mostly correct, I think. That is what most people are sort of somewhat thinking. Hellbringers, Summoners, Ebon Jaguars, of course the Mad Cat Mark II, just loading it up, whole bunch of alpha, long range poke style.
You know what? That's what I see a lot, is just long range bullshit.
Well, that's part of human nature, though, to tell you the truth. Everyone gravitates towards a mass majority of people gravitate towards like whatever the best thing is, like in a game, because they want to win. I mean, everyone wants to win.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong, I want to win. But that's just part of human nature when they go ahead and develop that kind of stuff.
It's just,
and it's hard to balance.
By contrast, at least, other play styles that used to have a place they can still work. Like I said, with the Multi-Metal crew, we adopted a Pounce playstyle, and we really trounced some teams. But individually and on their own, those brawler mechs are just not what they used to be.
Yeah. Well,
and brawling, I love brawling.
Oh yeah,
I love brawling too. Yeah. And you're definitely going to see like a MG balance coming out pretty soon, because I mean I've been noticing like Tear Up, I think I watched him for a couple of games when I was with him, and holy cow, that guy just runs up and just destroys assault mechs. And with that, it's either going to be like a jam chance for a bunch of machine guns like over 8 or something like that, or something that's going to like balance it out so it's not as effective, because literally you could destroy mechs with that thing, and it's just astronomically cool, but overpowered as well too, and so hence the balance comes.
Well, this is my point, at least my perspective is thus: it's not all about balance, it's about fun. That is the ultimate objective of people playing this game. This is what PGI wants to aim towards. You want a fun game to play, and at least on the competitive side, you want a fun game for people to participate in, but also for others to watch. And even like when we watched the they had the recent comp player to MechCon, it's snipey snipe. Oh, what fun! As I said, I think, at least as a viewing experience, less mechs is easier to follow than more. And I said as well, you want more varied mechs, so therefore only one of each variant is allowed. Something like that, to actually introduce variants and to make their more varied playstyles. But fundamentally, at least with the current game balance of MWO, the fundamental core problem is it is not fun because everything is being flatlined, and because everything's been flatlined, you might as well be a pokey snipe rather than I'm slightly better at close range. Please wait whilst I slowly, blow off
waddle over there.
Yeah, which I guess, you know what? Like honestly, I miss games whenever they came out, there were no updates. It was just you bought the game and that's what it was. The game could be broken, and then you just dealt with it.
Yeah, and again with the point of fun, PGI is very obsessed with nerfing. So they're taking. I've had a lot of fun with that Assassin 21, and it is overperforming, and so it does make some sense to nerf it. But it's kind of sad actually that as we say, MGs are really good, so let's nerf them. Assassin 21's really fun, let's nerf it. This mech, the Mad Cat Mark II, is doing is quite a fan favorite, so let's nerf its agility or whatever happens in the future. It's those losses, we are loss averse. Losses feel painful, but buffs are fun. Buffs are great.
Yeah.
PGI, please start buffing your mechs again. Let's have some more crazy variants in the game. Mix things up. I want to see my Vindicator dancing around like a ballerina again. That would be glorious.
Those were good. Those were good times.
With the auto shotgun, damn it.
Yeah, I want to see. I want to see stupidly unbalanced bullshit. That's what I want.
I mean, there's obviously a reasonable boundary, but PGI, we need buffs. We need fun. We need a time where me and a friend could jump in a brawler mech and suddenly appear out of nowhere and kill half the team, because that is the moment I will remember. I will not remember the time when I traded slightly more efficiently with my point-and-click adventure game.
Yeah, on Frozen City. It's all it's going to be. Those are not the games we will remember, or we will remember, because they're horrible.
And the same thing with mount balance too. Like I know on one of them on domination, you just rush through the map and get them off the the point. Oh God, what map is that? It has a dish in the middle.
Dish in the middle.
God damn it.
Oh, you're thinking of
and it's not like high.
You're thinking of HPG. HPG, yeah.
Not HPG, like the other one. It has a dish in the middle and it's out in the open. Fuck, I can't. It's been a week. I haven't played. So.
I'm having a senior moment. Dish in the.
God. Okay,
anyway, don't worry about it.
But you rush through there and you knock them off the point, and no one actually goes into the point because there's no cover to go and hide behind against the other team to get the domination points.
Mm-hmm.
The big Grim Plexus has
Grim Plexus
in the center, and it often forces a brawl at a certain corner or long snipey snipe, so to speak.
So power creep. Let's do power creep real quick. What do you guys think? I got my feelings on this. Domination. Yeah.
I mean, this all plays into my point that at least the biggest problem hasn't been for me the Hunchback 2Cs or the Kodiaks or the Marauder 2C. Those can be bested with my own OP Innosphere mechs.
Yeah.
The problem comes when you nerf all those bottom of the line mechs that have their own little tiny niche to be fun. Yes, those mechs are going to become very common and popular, and they did need a little bit of a punting down. But I don't think that is the problem that isn't the cause of the flatlining of the player base, of the flatlining of Mechwarrior Online. It's flatlining because our quirky, weird playstyles, or other playstyles, just don't have that fun core that they used to,
or the uniqueness, basically.
Yeah.
Like I know, like for me though, like with power creep, it seems like every single time they come with a new mech pack, it has something better than what it was before. I know certain game systems, like say Rips, has the same problem. Every book or every time they bring something out, it completely blows everything out of the water if you know how to do it right. And one of the things I would see though is I want to see the Wasp and the Stinger. I want to see those mechs in there. Problem is though, the Wasp only has a medium laser and SRM2 port, and that's it. So would you see those mechs coming out because no one actually picked those, and PGA won't develop those because the power creep's so high, and everyone's wanting to get the the Blood Asp or the Supernova or like other mechs that are completely blow that thing out of the water.
Well,
they're not going to put the amount of effort into building those mechs to time and effort to make that money for that, because no one's really going to pick them, except for crazy people like me.
I'm not sure. I would say there are a few clear instances. Stuff like the Piranha and some of those 2C mechs clearly bring something very unique and special to the table that is really powerful. But interestingly, of the recent releases, I don't necessarily think with every mech there's power creep. I think, in fact, PGI has been incredibly conservative with their mechs. Take, for example, the Thanatos.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh.
right, a 75-tonner with these CM, big giant barn door. It has a plenty of survival, but it has not necessarily that much going for it. So a lot of people picked it up and it disappeared.
Well,
You
with
know,
only 12
The
mechs a year, though, basically with only 12 mechs a year, you're not going to see stuff like that because everyone's asking for, say, the Blood Ass or the Crusader
well, like I was just gonna
or
say,
other things.
the Blood Asp that's not really a power creep mech.
Well, yeah, but like what I'm
Bloodhouse
saying,
is not a power creep map. The Fafnir that doesn't necessarily have to. It doesn't feel like a power creep map. The Sun
no.
Spider isn't going to be a power creep map. The Black Lana doesn't seem like it would be a power creep map. The Piranha was. The Hellspawn wasn't. The Thanatos wasn't. The Nova Cat wasn't. The Osiris. What's an Osiris? The
What's
Night
Osiris?
Star.
The
Oh, I love.
Osiris.
Exactly.
Oh yeah, like
There's
that's
so many
it's
mechs
a
being brought out.
worthless.
Yeah, there's so many. All of these mechs have been coming out, but
But the
they're so
Annihilator though, that was one.
Annihilator good. There's sometimes
good,
some
yeah.
mechs that really stand out, but a lot of them are just there. They're flat because everything is so flatlined. Special things like a whole bunch of machine guns, special things like a whole bunch of ballistics and a great shape on the Annihilator really make it stand out. And that's what the Vindicators and the Osirises and all these other weird shaped mechs need, is they need to be overpowered in some way to make them fun. Because
Mhm.
Like
I
better
don't like
quirk
being a
form.
giant blob in a Night Star. Then there's no point to be a giant blob in a Night Star.
Or
The
be a
Banshee has a
supernova.
better-
Yeah.
yeah, the Banshee has a better peaking profile. It has a better somewhat a better shielding profile. So why am I a blob in a Night Star? Because I just really enjoy bad convergence.
Because you're sadistic, yes.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well, I don't even own a Night Star, but that's just an example.
But if you did, hypothetically,
Yeah.
but it's just like I would say the power creep came more from like maybe snub nose PPCs. No, I mean I don't know.
No.
Yeah.
I would say that it isn't a matter of power creep. My entire argument has been, yes, there are some standout mechs, but the others can't even stand up.
Yeah.
I
True.
want all the mechs to have something they can stand up and be proud of. At least one variant of each chassis. I
Everyone
want that
has
60% cooldown on that Centurion because that thing was fucking cool. And
God, you would understand. That thing was awesome.
I loved
Jesus, I had so much fun with it.
burning through people's armor with just one weapon. That was
Yeah.
great.
Yeah, definitely.
And it doesn't have a point now. It can't stand up to the other mechs. The
I
Centurion
haven't used
has
it ever since the skill tree.
Yeah.
Like I
Yeah.
used like once or twice and that's it. And then I was like, well, screw that. And I only have 35%. I'm not gonna use that. There's better mechs out there with better, hard points and everything to use instead of this, and instead of 35% for the cooldown for the LV10X. And that's the reason why I used it. The 1V. I haven't used almost any of my locuses except for the Pirate's Bane, or over the whole course of the period when the skill tree did come out, when they debuffed everything, like the 1V, I used to love sitting there like shooting like a large laser in less than 3 seconds. That was awesome. now I'm sitting there like once every 5 or 6 seconds. I'm like, okay, I'm good. This is cool.
It's not worth it anymore.
It's not worth it.
It
Yeah.
doesn't stand up. It
doesn't
does
stand up
not
to
stand up.
to the other mechs that are out there.
Yeah.
So yeah, basically the balance is going. Do you think it's going in a wrong direction, or kind of just stalemating like everything? Well, actually, like that'll be the wrong direction, like anyways. But I would say just like we've been talking the whole thing. Balance has made the game unfun, but it's hard. It's hard for a game company, a small game company like BGI, to make balance from a tabletop game to the needs and the wants of everybody, because everyone has their own different opinions about how balanced it should be. So balance is perspective upon the players, and then PGI who has to make the code for it to make it work halfway decent for everyone to use.
Yeah.
That's what. Go ahead, Larsh.
Sure, yeah, because like I think Bob, I think you bring up a good point. Is that balance is it can differ from player to player.
Yeah.
But I think what PGI might want to do is get more of their developers in game,
playing the game, yeah.
And not balance based on paper and numbers. I think that's actually one of the bigger items that we would need to see.
Well, yeah, one of the things they can do is like, development day. Like you see a little development thing above their head, you get, like a free special star or something like that.
Well,
I've never seen those guys.
They kind of do that.
Stuff like that.
I couldn't really disagree with you guys more, at least in your approach. Again, my perspective is this is an issue of medium maximization. You keep talking balance, 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 balance. No, this is not a matter of balance. It is a matter of fun, or at least
true.
This is the biggest problem. We've been focusing on balance, making a perfectly balanced game, but we have not been focusing on making a fun game. Fun is the core criticism of this thing.
I don't. Yeah. I know. I do not disagree with that at all. But I think the point that maybe we're kind of missing here from what I'm saying is that, not to get the devs into balance said game, is that get the devs in game to play the game, and and if for once get a chance from the people who play. Is that I think what they might need to do is a two-pronged approach here. Get the devs in-game to, of course, play it and see if it is, quote, fun, which, of course, a definition of fun is different from person to person. What we find is fun might not be what the devs find as fun. Their version of balance might be fun. But is that the whole idea of fun from our side, from people on Reddit, is that these nerfs and the blandness have taken that fun away. So I'm not disagreeing with you at all on that. Is that I think what might also be the other good idea, besides getting people from PGI and devs in game more, is to have another open discussion. Do a live stream and do a live Q&A session, which I know they are probably not too fond of because it can be a little touch and go. Yeah, which, but it's one of those things where if moderated properly from chat, I think something like that could be beneficial.
True.
Could be. I think, though, at least from the way I've seen people talk about this game and the way PGI talks about this game, it's the fundamental cultural issue of focusing on balance and making things fair.
I don't want fair. I don't want fair. I love the challenge. That's another thing too. That my fun is actually being an underdog. And
I love doing that too. It's great.
Oh yeah, that's why
I love the underdog. It's why I'm in a sphere. Yeah. But the underdogs, despite some having lots of cool things to them, somewhat are falling behind in the current meta because PGI is slowly turning away from that. And at least sometimes when you talk about listening to the pros are only talking about their kind of fun, which is if the one way to play is to play your Hellbringers and Death Strikes, that is fun for the pros. But that is not fun for the entire community.
Yeah.
And the pros said to buff the Heavy Goose. The Heavy Goose was already actually kind of good, and it was already pretty fun. It did not need that buff, pros, or at least I haven't heard the argument in full for it, but it was just in my opinion at least, I do not see those SRM brawlers out there. SRM brawling is a thing I've had a lot of fun with, and a lot of other people have had fun with.
Oh, it's amazing.
It might not always be the most viable at the very top, but it needs to be more viable to actually stand a chance to be fun in the game, and that's not that's a big problem right now.
Yeah, it is. And then, but I think just because we are running very long on this podcast, is that one of the things that actually did come out of this video from Dane is that when it came out and it was voted on Reddit, Russ Bullock actually did take notice of. It doesn't happen often. But on his Twitter account, he actually did find this video and he found the bitch fest that came after it. And then he did mention that he would possibly talk to his team. Will he? I can't say for certain, but at least I hope so too. I hope this actually does change something. How long will it take? Who knows?
Well, you have a whole community that, yes, I'm the 90-year-old person that's been playing Ballistix since like the 1900s, and I love this game. I love everything about it. I love the lore. I love the mechs. I love quote the clans. I love everything about this game. It's awesome. It's great. So we pour our heart and soul like into like, let's try this. This might be better. Try this. Might be good. Of course, some might not be, but it's just you have a lot of people perception wise that have different aspects of what this game should be, and we give our opinions, which is cool, basically, but it's up to Russ, who actually owns the company, basically, to decide what he wants to do for the game as far as making it fun. And that's what we want to do, is make it fun, make it exciting. We've been talking about that the whole time. I want to have fun at this game. I think a lot of YouTubers I've been talking to have been hitting burnout stage. I know I'm hitting a little bit of burnout stage, and basically I don't play as much, but I want to get past that. I want to have fun in this game. I want to enjoy it. I want to be engrossed into a game of exciting funness, and blowing away with streaks, or jumping around with my Uzil and hitting with the snub nose PVC like crazy. I want to do that kind of stuff again, and it's hard to go do that now because it's just not as much fun as it was before. Or my Citronian blown away with the auto shotgun. I want to do that. It's not as fun like anymore.
Yeah, exactly. As YouTubers, like if you're a Barrowduel or whatever out there, when you had the crazy quirks before, you could say, all right, I'm going to take this one out. It has a crazy LBX10 cooldown.
Oh yeah,
quirk.
that makes it for great content.
And it makes brilliant content.
God, that was
people
awesome
go,
content.
oh wow, that's an amazing mech. I'm going to buy one of my own. And then everyone's running around having fun with that mech. And sure, it's not the most meta mech, but it was
blast
fun
to play.
It's a total blast to play, but with everything being so flatlined, it's sort of, and here is another solid, reliable, dependable mech with a standard dependable loadout.
Which nothing against Baradol. I think he's a great YouTuber, a great Twitch streamer.
Definitely.
I like at work, I used to love watching his daily dose videos because he turns them out every day. Like he's always doing them. But man, it's Byter. It's like you said, and here again is another reliable mech build. It works.
Yeah.
Well, that's all he could do. He makes best with the tools he could do. Whereas before, in the past, when the game was more quirky, there's so much more material for a Baradol to work with, and so therefore so much more entertainment he and we can all have with those kind of mechs.
Exactly, and that's why for me, like as a content creator, I want to make a video for next month, and I'm trying to find that weird niche that hasn't been itched yet, and I think I may have found something that might work, that might be interesting, but like, fuck, it's hard to find.
I mean, here's the funny thing with Bob mentioned the streaks, and this is the funny thing, at least, like, I've always somewhat liked streaks, but I loved Brawl more. The thing is, because Brawl is so underwhelming and so risky, I might as well pay a little more tonnage, because it doesn't matter about the engine size, and upgrade to streaks, because my damage is splattering all over the place anyway. So I might as well be just as effective at 380 meters than the SRMs, where they're only effective at like 50 meters, or pinpoint at 50.
Yeah, exactly. But at least with streaks, you know that everything's hitting.
Yeah, because everything's flatlined. For my mindset, I might as well take streaks. What's SRMs? SRMs just unguided streaks. What silly tech is that?
And you're gonna miss too.
And you're gonna miss. Yep.
Well, some of them are gonna fly through the target or blah 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 blah. So might as well have them all hit.
So we're gonna wrap this up. So
it's been a while. 2 hours now almost.
Okay, so hey everybody, thank you for watching. This has been the Balance quote fun boring podcast of a podcast number the First Circuit podcast number 26. I do appreciate you guys like watching. Thank you. You guys are a great community. Larsh has something to go ahead and talk about his Boba Fett builds or something like that.
I do? Well, I guess so now. If you're just putting me on the spot. Cool. I wasn't planning on it, but yes. Everyone, thank you for these submissions. If you have seen the video update, I will be getting voting done soon. Hope to announce a winner by mid-month. But yeah, that's all I got.
Okay. And Byter, You have anything to go and add?
Buffs are fun.
Buffs
Nerfs
are fun.
make me sad. Please bring more buffs into the game, PGI. I
Oh,
want
that's
to
an
have
awesome
fun.
meme, by the way. Buffs are fun, nerfs are bad.
Nerfs are bad. Oh, and I
And
guess
yeah, go ahead.
so. And real quick, for everyone watching, I typically do a live stream of the game afterwards because we had done a very long podcast. I'm gonna be out for about an hour this time, not a half an hour, because I need
Same here,
to go get some food. I had a long day at work, so my live stream will be in an hour tonight, not the half an hour as usual.
Also,
so go ahead.
On my previous point, just for anyone interested, at least a lot of my inspiration for my points have been taken from a YouTube channel called Core A Gaming, who have done an analysis video called "Why We Should Buff More Than Nerf," which I think is a very interesting view. If any of you
And
want to
send me a
check
link
that
for
out.
that. Like, I want to put that like in the
Yeah,
in the
yeah,
video.
I'll post it in the chat.
Yeah,
And
that sounds
for
good.
everybody, this is old
It's
Bob.
for fighting games.
Oh, cool. And so everyone, this is old Bob. I just want to thank you once again, and for my project that I've promised at the end of January. I can't get that done. It's been hell on earth for 20 freaking videos, and it'll be coming out hopefully by mid-February. Like Larsh, life just kind of puts you in a little bad place where you can't build anything or do anything. But it should be out hopefully by mid-February. I'm guessing in 2 weeks from now, and basically I'll be releasing 14 15 videos at first and the other 5 like once every other couple of days. So thank you guys. I do appreciate it. This is the First Circuit podcast number 26. Everyone. Oh, by the way, never mind. Okay, if you guys have a good night, and I'll see you on the battlefield. I was gonna put our sponsors, but I guess we won't get any money from them.
Bye.